Hi, and welcome to Slowburn Stories. Settle in, get comfortable, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share where you're listening from. Let's begin. It starts with a whisper against the window pane. You don't notice it at first, not really. The day had already gone quiet, the way it sometimes does in small towns just before the weather changes. You'd been curled up on your faded blue couch, legs tucked beneath a worn blanket, a steaming mug resting on the windowsill beside you. Your favorite one, the mug, with the tiny chip on the rim and the faint outline of a bear etched into its side. The heat from the tea fogs the glass, blurring your view of the street outside, but you're not watching for anything in particular. You're just existing. It's a Tuesday, but it hardly matters. The bakery on Main closed early, and the shop across the street turned its sign from open to be back tomorrow well before lunch. Even the post office shut its door with an apologetic shrug, the kind that says snow's coming, better get home while you can. You'd felt it in your bones, too, even before you checked the weather, the way the air pressed in just a little tighter. The way sound seemed muffled, as if the sky were holding its breath. So you came home early, let yourself exhale, and settled in with no particular plans other than surviving whatever was headed your way. It's peaceful, almost too peaceful, and then comes the knock. Not loud, not urgent, just unexpected. You blink, your gaze drifting toward the door. No one knocks on your door. Not really. Not unless it's a delivery or a mistake. This building doesn't invite drop-ins. It's the kind of place where everyone minds their own business, where the most you get is a polite nod in the hallway or the quiet shuffle of footsteps upstairs. And that's when it hits you. The footsteps. You've heard them for nearly a year. Now steady, calm, rarely rushed, always overhead. The stranger upstairs, the man in apartment 3B. You've never spoken to him beyond the occasional hi in the stairwell. Maybe once you held the front door open when he was carrying a box. Maybe once he passed you your mail by mistake. That's it. But now, he's knocking. You rise, cautious but curious, wrapping the blanket a little tighter around your shoulders. The floor is cold beneath your socks. You reach the door and peek through the peephole, your breath catching slightly. It's him. He looks just like you remember, tall, dark-haired, bundled in a thick coat dusted with the beginnings of snow, a knit hat pulled low, a scarf tucked up to his chin. His eyes, though, are what hold your attention. Soft, brown, maybe hazel. You can't quite tell through the fisheye glass, but they look hesitant. You unlock the door and open it just a crack. "Hi," you say, your voice gentler than you expected. "Everything okay?" He smiles, a little sheepish. "Hey, sorry to bother you. I just thought you might want to know the power's flickering." You blink. "Is it?" He nods. "I saw the lines outside. They're icing up. I've got candles upstairs just in case. Figured I'd check in." That surprises you. Not the candles, the checking in part. It's a small town, sure, but people don't usually go out of their way, not unless they have a reason. "That's kind of you," you say. "Thanks." He nods, but doesn't move to leave. "I'm Evan," he says after a moment, pulling off his glove and offering his hand. You hesitate, then take it. His palm is warm. "I know," you say, and instantly feel the heat rise in your cheeks. "I mean, I've seen your name on the mailbox." He laughs, soft and low. "Right, and You tell him your name, and he says it once, repeating it like he wants to remember how it sounds. Like maybe he said it before, under his breath when he passed you on the stairs. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he says. "Just wanted to be neighborly. You know, in case the storm gets worse. You glance past him at the sky. The snow is falling heavier, now thicker flakes, swirling down in slow, lazy spirals, the kind of snow that settles in for the long haul. You feel it in your chest, that weightless ache of winter creeping in. Appreciate it, you say. I'm all set for now. Got tea and soup and books. He grins. That's a solid plan. You're about to say goodbye, to thank him again and retreat into the warm cocoon of your apartment, but then the lights flicker. Once, twice, and then gone. The hallway goes dim. You both look up at the ceiling, as if expecting an answer. Well, he says after a pause, his voice wry. That was good timing. You laugh, an actual, startled laugh that bubbles up before you can stop it. Do you want to? He gestures vaguely. I've got a few lanterns and a kettle that works on the stove. We could ride it out, together, or not, if that's weird. You consider. Your apartment is fine, it's familiar, cozy, but there's something about the idea of not being alone right now, of sharing the quiet, of listening to the snowfall with someone else breathing in the same space. And he's offering, in that careful, respectful way that makes it easy to say no if you need to. But you don't need to. You nod. Let me grab my slippers. He waits patiently while you duck inside. The hallway smells like the old radiator and someone's forgotten vanilla candle. You grab your slippers, a sweater, and the extra blanket from the back of the couch. When you return, he's still there, holding the flashlight from his phone up like a beacon. Together you climb the stairs to 3B. His apartment is warmer than yours, maybe because it's higher up or maybe because of the company. There are books on the shelf and a soft quilt over the back of the couch, a guitar leaning against the wall. A cat you didn't expect blinks at you from the window ledge before disappearing behind a curtain. She's shy, Evan says, but she'll come out eventually. You smile. I like cats. I had a feeling. He lights a lantern, an old-fashioned one, with a glass globe and a soft golden glow, and sets it on the coffee table. It casts flickering shadows across the walls, the kind that make the world feel smaller in the best way. He makes tea. You settle in, and slowly the storm begins to erase the world outside. The tea tastes like cinnamon and something floral, maybe cardamom. You don't ask, don't need to. It warms you from the inside out, slipping past the chill that followed you up the stairs. The lantern crackles slightly, the flame within steady but low, its light dancing against the old wooden floors. Everything here glows, not just from the lantern, but from the stillness, the quiet, the knowing that the world has stopped for a while. Evan sits across from you on the couch, his hands wrapped around his own mug. He leans forward a little, elbows on his knees, as though part of him is still unsure how close he's allowed to be. You're aware of the space between you, not large, not small, just uncertain, uncharted. A cat-shaped shadow pads through the room, a faint rustle, then a thump as she jumps onto the windowsill. That's Marigold, he says, glancing over. She usually hides when there's company, but I guess she's feeling brave. She's beautiful, you say, watching her silhouette curl up against the glass. She's mostly attitude, he replies, but she's loyal. You smile, the kind of smile that sticks for a few seconds longer than usual, and it's easy somehow to sit like this. Two people with nothing pressing to say, no rush to fill the silence, just the steady hush of falling snow outside and the occasional creak of the old building settling. He breaks the silence gently. So, how long have you lived downstairs? You glance at him. Almost 2 years. His eyebrows lift. Seriously? You nod. Moved in just before that big snow 2 winters ago, right before New Year's. He leans back slightly, mock offended. And we've spoken, what, twice? That's criminal. I should have introduced myself ages ago. You chuckle. You didn't exactly come knocking with a pie. He grins. I don't bake. Well then, your excuse is valid. You take a sip of tea, and the steam curls toward your face. You look out the window. The world beyond the glass is thick with snow, now piled up against the street signs, coating the mailboxes, turning everything into the soft hush of a snow globe. There's a stillness that only comes when the whole town is tucked away indoors, holding its breath. You wonder how many people out there are alone right now, and how strange, how lucky that you're not. Evan watches the window too, and his voice is quieter when he speaks again. Didn't grow up with snow, he says. I'm from Arizona, moved here for work, and I thought I'd hate it, but now, you tilt your head. Now? Now I kind of love it. He glances at you. There's something about the way it shuts everything down, like it gives you permission to just stop, rest. You nod slowly, like the world goes soft around the edges. He smiles. Exactly. You notice then that he's taken off his coat, and his sweater sleeves are pushed up to his forearms. There's something casual and comforting in the way he looks like he belongs here in this room, in this moment, in this storm. Do you like it here? He asks after a moment. The town? You consider your answer, fingers tracing the rim of your mug. I do, you say. I think I was looking for quiet, and I found it. Too quiet? You shake your head. Not tonight. Something flickers across his face at that something warm, something thoughtful, and then, carefully, he sets his mug down and gets up. Hold on, he says. I've got something. You watch him disappear down the hallway, hear the creak of a cabinet and the soft rustle of something being pulled down from a shelf. When he returns, he's holding a dusty metal tin. Hot cocoa, he says proudly. My one specialty. You laugh. I thought you said you don't bake. I don't, but I do stir powder into milk with a frankly impressive amount of skill. He's already moving to the kitchen before you can answer, lighting a small gas flame beneath a pot. You get up, joining him by the counter as the scent of cocoa fills the air. He hands you a spoon to stir, and the two of you stand shoulder to shoulder in that tiny space, your elbows occasionally bumping. It feels domestic. When the cocoa is ready, he pours it into mismatched mugs and tops them with a handful of mini marshmallows from a bag that looks at least a little nostalgic. You take yours and wrap your hands around it gratefully. Cheers, he says, clinking your mug with his. To what? He thinks for a moment. To strange Tuesdays and people you've almost met. You smile. I like that. Back on the couch, the cocoa is just the right temperature. You sip slowly, savoring it, and let the silence return. This time, it's not uncertain, it's comfortable, like a shared blanket draped invisibly between you. Can I ask something? You say after a long pause. Of course. Why did you really knock tonight? He looks at you, and for the first time his gaze holds a hint of vulnerability. He shifts slightly, then sighs. I saw the snow starting and thought, maybe you'd rather not be alone when the lights went out. You blink. You were watching? He shrugs, a little sheepish. Not in a creepy way, just noticed you heading in earlier than usual, and I realized we've lived in the same building for almost 2 years and barely said 5 words to each other. You feel your chest tighten not in a bad way, but in that soft, unexpected way affection sometimes sneaks in. I'm glad you did, you say quietly. He meets your eyes again, and for a moment, the room feels smaller still, not in a claustrophobic way, but in that kind of cocooned, tucked away feeling, like nothing outside those walls matters, like the snow will keep falling forever, and you'll both stay warm, here in the light of a single lantern. The wind howls once outside, rattling the windows, and then it's still again. You glance down at your empty mug, Evan's watching you with something in his eyes you don't quite know how to name yet. Not quite longing, not yet, but something near it. Curiosity, maybe, or wonder, and maybe the smallest trace of hope. You want to stay a while? He asks, soft. You don't answer right away. Instead, you gently tug the blanket tighter over your lap and glance toward Marigold, who is curled up on a nearby chair, purring faintly now that the quiet has settled in. I think I'd like that, you say, voice low. Outside, the snow falls on. The cocoa has gone cold, but you haven't noticed. The mugs rest on the table now, forgotten between you, while the lantern flickers beside them. The light paints shadows on Evan's face soft beneath his eyes, caught just under his cheekbones. You've stopped looking away when your gaze drifts to him. It feels safe to watch him now, safe to sit this close and just talk. And that's exactly what you've been doing, talking. It started simply enough. He asked what you do for work, and you gave the usual answer. Then he told you about his job, graphic design, mostly freelance, the kind of thing that's 80% email and 20% wondering if the client actually knows what they want. You laughed, and the laughter came easily, the kind that doesn't feel performative or polite, just genuine. But then, as the snow thickened outside and the night deepened, the words between you started to stretch into something softer. You found yourself telling him about your favorite books, the one that first made you cry, the one you always carry when you travel, the one that smells like your grandmother's attic, though you've never told anyone that before. And he told you about a childhood trip he took just him and his father up the Pacific Coast Highway in a borrowed van that smelled like peppermint gum and sunscreen. He said he never knew his dad all that well, not really. But on that trip, he saw him differently. He got excited about lighthouses, Evan said, smiling at the memory, like ridiculously excited. I think I laughed the whole drive. There's a lull now, not awkward, just peaceful. You both listen as the building groans quietly beneath the weight of the storm. Outside, the wind has picked up again, but inside, everything is still. You tuck your knees up beneath you, blanket around your shoulders like a cloak. He mirrors you without realizing it, resting one arm on the back of the couch, his fingers only inches from yours. It's a fragile space you share, not quite friendship, not quite something more, but it's warmer than either of you expected it would be. You know, he says, his voice soft, I always wondered what you were like. You turn to him. Really? He nods just once. You always seemed grounded, quiet in a good way, like someone who reads the whole menu before ordering. You laugh. I do. I knew it, he says, mock triumphant. You nudge him lightly with your elbow. What about me? What did you think I was like? He pauses, and there's no teasing in his expression now. I thought you looked like the kind of person who'd listen before speaking, and the kind who remembers other people's coffee orders without being asked. You blink, surprised by how specific that is, and how accurate. I didn't think you noticed me, you admit. He tilts his head, a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. You wore that green scarf last winter for almost 3 weeks straight, and once you brought home a bouquet of tulips in the middle of a snowstorm, I noticed. Your breath catches a little. That was a bad week. You bought the tulips because you needed something bright, something defiant. You never thought anyone saw that moment but you. I like flowers, you say quietly. I know, he replies. The silence after that is fuller than before, not heavy, just real, like something between you is beginning to bloom, tentative but sincere. A floorboard creaks somewhere in the apartment. Marigold stretches on her chair and lets out a tiny squeaky yawn. And then, almost hesitantly, Evan speaks again. "Can I ask something?" "Of course." He shifts to face you more directly, the glow of the lantern catching the edge of his profile. "Why did you move here?" he asks. "Not just this apartment, I mean. This town, this quiet." You hesitate. It's a fair question, and you don't lie, but you don't always tell the whole truth either. Tonight, though, it feels like maybe you could, maybe you should. "I wanted a slower kind of life," you say. "I'd been moving too fast, and I was tired of pretending not to be lonely." He nods, not pushing, not pressing, just listening. "There was this one afternoon." You continue, your voice softer now. "I was sitting in traffic, eating cold takeout on my lap, and I looked up at a billboard for something ridiculous like wrinkle cream or vacation insurance, and I just thought, I don't want this. I don't want to race toward things I don't even like. I want to walk. I want quiet mornings and neighbors who say hello, and the kind of sky that changes slowly." You glance at him, half expecting him to look puzzled, but he doesn't. He just watches you like you've given him a puzzle piece he didn't know he was missing. "That's beautiful," he says after a beat. "And honest." You nod, almost shyly. "What about you?" you ask. "Why here?" He exhales, a long breath that sounds like he's been holding it all evening. "I came here after my engagement ended." The air shifts slightly, not awkward, just real. You don't flinch, you just wait. "It wasn't ugly," he continues. "Just empty. We were building something we didn't want anymore. I think she figured it out before I did. She left. And I looked around and realized I had no idea who I was outside of that life. So I left too." "And this place?" He shrugs. "Had a job offer. The town was small. It felt like I could breathe here, start over, get to know the quiet parts of myself again." You look at him, really look, and something in your chest unfurls. Maybe you're not the only one who came here searching. Maybe everyone is quietly hoping for softness in a world that too often forgets to be gentle. "I'm sorry," you say, and you mean it. "Thank you," he replies, and he means it too. The lantern sputters gently, and the room grows dimmer still. Marigold is asleep now, a little puffball on the chair. The snow outside is relentless. The town is long since tucked in. The power doesn't look like it's coming back soon. You don't want to move. "I've got extra blankets," he says, voice a little rougher now. "If it gets colder." You nod. "Thanks." He stands, walks into the hallway, and returns with a thick quilt folded over his arm. It smells faintly of cedar and clean cotton. You pull it over your legs and shoulders, and as he sits back down beside you closer this time, you realize how natural it feels. Not electric, not dramatic, just right. He looks at you one last time before letting his eyes drift to the window again. "You know," he says quietly, "I don't think we're strangers anymore." You don't answer aloud. You just smile, and this time you don't look away. The quilt covers you both now, not entirely, just enough to suggest closeness, to make the space between you more suggestion than distance. His half is folded over his lap, yours tucked around your feet and pulled snugly over your shoulders. Where the fabric meets in the middle, your knees are almost touching. Almost. The lantern's glow has faded to a faint pulse of amber light, steady but low, like the room has slipped into a dream. Outside, the storm presses its weight against the windows, but it can't come in. You feel safe here, swallowed up in warmth, in silence, in something neither of you dare name just yet. Evan's breathing is slow, deep. He's leaning back against the couch now, his body angled slightly towards you, head tilted like he might rest it back but doesn't. You're quiet too. Not because there's nothing to say, but because this shared stillness feels rare, sacred, and neither of you want to break it too soon. You glance toward the window again. Snow has built up in thick waves on the fire escape outside, hiding the edges of the world. Streetlights are blurred, half lost behind the swirls of white. Somewhere below, a car tire slips, then stills. You can almost feel the entire town holding its breath. It's strange, you say finally, your voice soft. How quiet everything becomes. Evan turns his head just slightly. I like it. You nod. Me too. He shifts beside you, his leg brushing against yours under the blanket. Just a small touch, a quick one, but neither of you move away. You know, he says after a moment, I've always wondered what it would be like to be snowed in. You glance at him. And? He smiles faintly. Better than I imagined. That makes you smile too. You turn toward him a little, curling one leg beneath you. The couch creaks under the weight shift, and Marigold lets out a sleepy protest from the nearby chair before curling tighter into herself. What did you imagine? You ask. He shrugs, pretending to think. Wool socks, bad coffee, an emergency can of soup, possibly a board game I'd regret playing alone. You laugh softly. Sounds like the beginning of a very sad novel. Exactly. Chapter 1. Solitude and SpaghettiOs. You giggle, then press your hand to your mouth as if to muffle it. The laughter feels easy, safe, like it belongs here. What about you? He asks. Have you ever been snowed in before? You shake your head. Not properly. I've had flights canceled and trains delayed, but never this. Never watching it fall from inside someone else's living room. His gaze lingers on you. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else tonight, he says quietly. The words settle between you, soft as snowfall, and when you meet his eyes, you don't look away. Not this time. I wouldn't either, you whisper. The moment stretches, not charged, not intense, just full of quiet possibilities, of things neither of you planned, but somehow both leaned into. Evan looks down at his hands, then flexes his fingers once before settling them on his knee. I almost knocked before, he says. You tilt your head. Before tonight? He nods. A few times. I'd see you come home with a book under your arm or a ridiculous grocery bag with flowers sticking out of it, and I'd think just knock, say hi. But I didn't. Why not? He exhales, slow. I guess I thought you looked content, like you didn't need anyone knocking. You take a moment with that, not offended, just thoughtful. I think, you say carefully, I was hoping someone would. He lifts his eyes. You meet them without hesitation. I didn't realize it until tonight, you add, but I think I wanted someone to see me, and not because I was loud or bold or trying, just because I was there. He nods slowly. I see you. It's the simplest thing he's said all night, and the most disarming. You feel it in your chest not as a flutter, but as a slow unfurling, like something inside you has finally been given sunlight after too long in shadow. You shift again on the couch, turning more fully toward him. The blanket adjusts with you. Your knees touch now, gently. He doesn't pull away. What are we doing? You ask softly. He smiles. Whatever we want. You look down, then up again. I think I'd like to fall asleep right here, you say, with someone else breathing beside me, with the storm out there and this quiet in here. I'd like that too. And so you do. You rise first, careful not to disturb the cat, and gather the extra pillows he offers from a nearby chair. He lays them across the couch, adjusts the quilt, then settles back down with a kind of practiced ease, like he's done this before, or maybe like it's the first time it's felt like the right thing to do. You slide in beside him, leaving just enough space to ask for consent, to give room, but not so much that it feels like you've retreated. "You warm enough?" he asks. You nod. "Are you?" "I am now." You both lie there for a while, facing the ceiling, sharing breath. The lantern sputters again, and finally the flame dies. Neither of you moves to relight it. The dark is soft, not sharp, full of rhythm, full of breath and heartbeat, and the sound of the storm beyond the walls. And then, his voice again, barely above a whisper. "If I reach for your hand, will you pull away?" You don't answer. You just reach for his first. His fingers slide into yours like they've always belonged there, not grasping, just resting, just there. "I'm glad the power went out," he murmurs. You smile, your cheek against the pillow. "Me too." And then, with a soft sigh, you close your eyes. His thumb brushes yours once before going still again, and the world disappears into snow and breath and warmth. You wake to stillness, not the kind that feels empty or hollow, but the kind that wraps around you gently, like a thick quilt pulled up beneath your chin, the kind of quiet that belongs to fresh snow and slow mornings. You're warm before you're awake, cocooned in softness, and there's something comforting about the weight beside you, a shape, a presence. It takes a moment to remember where you are. Not your bed, not your apartment. The couch. Evan's couch. And Evan, he's still here. You open your eyes slowly. Morning light spills across the ceiling, pale and diffused, the kind that comes only after a night of deep snow. Everything is soft, dim, frosted over. The air smells faintly of cocoa and cedar and something warmer him. He's still sleeping. You turn your head just enough to see him. His hair is slightly mussed. There's a tiny crease at the corner of his mouth where it had pressed into the pillow. He's facing you now, his head tucked into the crook of his arm, his other hand still loosely holding yours beneath the quilt. You didn't let go. Not all night. That surprises you, and yet it doesn't. Something shifted last night, not loudly, not with declarations or confessions, but in the silence, in the look he gave you when he said, "I see you," in the way his hand found yours like it had been waiting there all along. You watch him for a while, the gentle rise and fall of his chest, the peacefulness in his features. He looks younger when he sleeps, softer, like someone who's been holding the world together for a long time and finally let himself rest. You think, not for the first time, how little you knew about him yesterday morning, and how much you feel now. Outside, the world has vanished under snow. The windows are frosted over in delicate, lacy patterns, the kind that look like they were painted by hand. Beyond them, the sky is a pale wash of silver blue, and rooftops are buried in white. It's quiet in the way only snow makes possible, soundless but full, as if the entire town is holding its breath. Evan stirs. His fingers twitch against yours before he blinks his eyes open. For a second he looks dazed, caught between dreams and reality. Then he sees you, and his face relaxes into the softest smile. "Morning," he says, voice low and raspy. "Hi," you whisper. Neither of you moves. Neither of you needs to. His thumb traces a lazy, gentle arc across your knuckles. "Did you sleep okay?" he asks. You nod. "Better than I have in weeks." He hums, pleased. "Me too." You both lie there in the hush of morning, letting the day bloom slowly around you. No rush, no alarms. Just the warmth of shared breath and the quilt pulled up to your chins and the promise of more snow in the air. Eventually, he stretches long and lazy and lets go of your hand just long enough to rub at his eyes. I think the power's still out, he murmurs, glancing toward the kitchen. I don't hear the fridge humming. You sit up slightly, the blanket falling from your shoulder. A small chill rushes in, but you don't mind. You're still warm. Warm from the night, from the space beside him, from the memory of a lantern glow and a hand reaching in the dark. I'll make tea, he says, rising with a groan and running a hand through his hair. Back to the trusty stove. You smile, curling back into the couch as he moves around the kitchen with quiet familiarity. There's something so ordinary about it, watching him rinse the kettle and strike a match for the burner, but it doesn't feel ordinary at all. It feels like something you could get used to. He finds two mismatched mugs, again one blue, one white, and sets them down on the counter. You join him, standing at his side, shoulder to shoulder in your borrowed warmth and the scent of tea rising between you. How do you like your eggs? He asks suddenly. You blink. Eggs? I mean, if I had eggs, he clarifies, laughing. Which I don't, but it's a good question, right? You laugh too, shaking your head. Scrambled, with chives. He nods seriously. Noted. One day I will cook you eggs with chives, and it will be my redemption arc. I'll hold you to it. Tea in hand, you return to the couch, this time sitting close without hesitation. The blanket is pulled around you both again, but now it feels like a choice, like a shared secret. He glances sideways at you. You want to check the snow? You nod. He leads you to the window, lifting the curtain gently. The world outside is a silent cathedral of white. The street is buried. The sidewalk is gone. Tree branches are bowed under the weight of snow, and icicles hang like glass teeth from the gutters. No cars, no plows, just snow. Looks like we're not going anywhere, he says. Not for a while. He turns to you, and his voice is quieter. Is that okay? You meet his gaze and smile. It's more than okay. And it is. You spend the morning moving in slow rhythms. He finds an old deck of cards and teaches you a ridiculous game he half remembers from college. You both cheat, a lot. You laugh harder than you have in weeks, and Marigold watches you from the armchair like a skeptical chaperone. He finds a candle in the cupboard that smells like orange and cinnamon. You light it together, the flame small but determined, and it fills the apartment with something sweet and comforting. You read on the couch for a while. He offers you a book from his shelf, and you accept without asking what it's about. He reads too, across from you, and the silence is warm, full of pages turning and cocoa cooling and 1,000 quiet threads weaving between you. Around noon he heats up soup, the kind from a can, with tiny pasta shapes and too much salt. But you eat it gratefully, sitting cross-legged on the rug in front of the window, watching the snow drift down like time slowed just for you. It's domestic, but not in the way you expected. It's not about playing house. It's about being here, being seen, being warm. Later, as the sky begins to shift from blue to gray again, and the wind picks up outside, Evan looks at you across the rim of his mug and says, "This has been the best snowstorm of my life." You smile. Mine too. And in that moment, with your feet tucked under a borrowed blanket and a candle flickering behind you, you realize something. You don't feel alone anymore. Not in this town. Not in this building. Not in this moment. Not with him. The snow doesn't stop. All afternoon it falls in steady silence, cloaking the town in deeper white. The plows haven't come, and no one in their right mind would be out walking. Not now. The world beyond the apartment has vanished beneath a blanket so thick it no longer seems real, like something imagined through a dream. Inside, the warmth continues, not just from the stove or the tea or the second-hand heat of candle flames, but from presence, from shared air and nearness, from the kind of company that asks nothing, offers everything, and says more by simply staying. You've stopped thinking of it as being snowed in. You've started thinking of it as here. You both drift easily through the space. He pulls out a small speaker and plays quiet music, something acoustic and gentle, a guitar that hums like it's being played from a distant room. You clean the mugs together after lunch. He dries while you wash. The rhythm is easy, wordless, like it's something you've done before, or something you were always meant to do. There's a lightness in the air now, a kind of safety. He jokes about how his spice cabinet is full of things he's never used. You find cumin from 2018 and call it a crime against flavor. He looks genuinely embarrassed, then swears to make it up to you by learning to cook something that doesn't come from a box. You pretend to be skeptical, but your smile gives you away. Eventually, the quiet returns. Not because it has to, because it feels good. You're back on the couch now, sharing the blanket again. His socked feet are near yours, not touching, but there's a new kind of closeness in how you sit, not distant, not uncertain. You lean toward him without realizing it. He leans too. At one point, he looks at you and says, almost to himself, "You make this place feel like home." You don't answer right away, because something about that sentence wraps around your ribs and holds you still for a breath. But then, softly you say, "Maybe that's what we both needed." He doesn't respond with words, just a nod, one of those deep, knowing ones. Like he's not just hearing you, he's storing the moment somewhere safe. Outside, the wind picks up again. Marigold jumps down from her armchair perch and trots over, finally brave enough to demand a seat on your lap. She climbs into the warmth of your blanket, curls up like she's claimed you, and begins to purr without ceremony. You both laugh, and Evan says, "She's never done that with anyone." You scratch gently behind her ears. "She has good taste." He watches you then, for a little too long, not staring, not intense, just present, like you're the most grounded thing in the room. The music shifts into a lull, soft piano now, almost imperceptible beneath the quiet of the apartment. Your shoulders rest against the back of the couch. His arm is behind you, not touching, not yet, but there's only a whisper of space. Eventually you ask, "What would you be doing right now if the storm hadn't happened?" He considers this for a moment, then answers honestly, "Sitting at my desk, probably answering emails I don't care about, eating something bland, staring out the window, wishing the day would hurry up so I could stop pretending to be productive." You smile. "And now?" He looks at you, really looks at you, and says, "Now I wish the day would slow down." You try to swallow, but the lump in your throat surprises you. You manage a soft, "Me too." A long pause stretches between you, comfortable, heavy in the good way, like a thick blanket settling across both of your shoulders. Then his voice, barely above a whisper, "Can I tell you something without it being too much?" You nod once, slowly. "Of course. I haven't felt this kind of quiet in a long time," he says. "Not the kind where you're alone, the kind where someone else is here, and you're both just breathing in the same room, and it's enough." You feel that all the way down, because you know exactly what he means. You turn slightly toward him. "I've been lonely in full rooms, but not here, not with you." His eyes flicker to your lips, then back to your eyes. Neither of you moves. Neither of you breaks the spell, but something settles between you, thicker than quiet, warmer than the blanket, realer than anything either of you have dared to say aloud. It's not a declaration. It's a recognition. Later, The afternoon stretches long and golden. The snow continues to fall, but it no longer matters. Time softens around you both. You sit together on the couch, reading from your books, occasionally sharing passages aloud. He reads something by Mary Oliver. You quote a line from an old novel you love. It doesn't matter if the power stays off forever. You could live like this for a while. When dusk begins to darken the windows, he lights the lantern again, this time without asking. You hand him the matches like it's second nature. He says thank you without looking. It feels like a ritual now, like something sacred. There's a kind of domestic magic to it. The flicker of the flame, the way your hands pass objects to each other without thought, the way his voice murmurs your name in the quiet just once like he's making sure it's real. You say his name too, just to try it out. It fits softly in your mouth. Marigold eventually slips off your lap, stretching her legs and slinking back toward her armchair with the regal grace of someone who knows she's owned the room all along. You and Evan are left in the silence she leaves behind. It's almost dinner time. Not that either of you are keeping track. You both drift into the kitchen, peering into cupboards, laughing at what little you each have. You combine your resourcestu packets of ramen, half a carrot, a questionable onion, and a splash of soy sauce and somehow turn it into something that tastes better than it should. He jokes that you're now married by cabin fever law. You roll your eyes, but your cheeks are warm. You eat standing at the counter, sipping broth from mismatched bowls. He wipes a speck from the corner of your lip before you even notice it. You don't flinch. You just say thank you, and he says anytime, and the world doesn't shift, it settles. That night, as the sky darkens again and the snow keeps falling, he brings out a second blanket from the bedroom. You take turns using the hot water kettle to wash your face with warm cloths. He offers you a pair of clean socks, brand new, I swear, and you change into them without hesitating. You brush your teeth side by side in the bathroom, laughing quietly at how strange and familiar it feels. Then you return to the couch, not because there's nowhere else to sleep, but because neither of you want to sleep apart. Not tonight, not after a day like this. You curl up beside him, head on his shoulder this time. His arm finds its way around you, his breath brushes your forehead. You don't speak, there's no need. Everything you needed to say was said in the way he passed you the matches, in the way you stirred the soup, in the way neither of you let go. The morning comes gently. You wake to the soft hum of something electronic. At first, it feels like a dream, a faint vibration in the air, subtle but unfamiliar after 2 days of quiet. But then you open your eyes and it's there again. The fridge is humming. The heat clicks on, and the lights flicker to life. The power's back. You sit up slowly, blinking against the soft yellow light of the overhead lamp. It feels too bright after so many hours lit by flame and snowfall. You stretch beneath the blanket, bones creaking, body warm and pleasantly heavy from sleep. Evan's already awake. He's in the kitchen, barefoot and quiet, filling the kettle with water. You hear the splash of it, the clink of the burner knob, and then the low whoosh of gas catching fire. When he sees you, his whole face brightens. "Hey," he says, his voice still rough with sleep. "You're up." You nod, rubbing at your eyes. "The power's back." "Yeah," he says, glancing around like he still doesn't believe it. "It's almost too quiet with it on, you know." You do know. After so long in soft silence, the hum of electricity feels jarring. Not wrong, exactly, just loud, like the world is shaking itself awake after dreaming something beautiful. You rise slowly, wrapping the blanket around your shoulders, and make your way to the window. The view outside is breathtaking. The storm has stopped. In its place, The world lies still and shimmering under a thick coat of snow. The sun is finally out, low and golden on the horizon, turning the snowdrifts into sculptures of light and shadow. Tree branches sparkle with ice, rooftops glisten. A single set of footprints cuts through the pristine white outside your building, just one path, leading off into town. It looks like a postcard. It looks like a memory. Evan steps up beside you, his mug steaming in one hand. You feel him standing there close, warm, easy. He doesn't say anything, just looks with you, breath fogging the glass. Looks different now, you murmur. Yeah, he says. Still quiet though. You turn toward him. Still us. He smiles, soft and lopsided. Still us. It feels strange to talk about it so directly, whatever this is. But there's no need to explain. The connection has been growing steadily, quietly, like a vine climbing towards sunlight. It's not delicate anymore, it's rooted. I should probably check my phone, you say reluctantly. He groans. No, don't do it. You laugh, padding over to where you left it on the counter. There's a flood of notifications, missed calls, a handful of texts, a news alert about the storm, one from your coworker. You okay? Herd power was out. Another from your sister. Please tell me you're not stuck alone in the cold. You glance up at Evan, who's now making toast in a small skillet like it's the most natural thing in the world. You smile to yourself. No, you weren't stuck. You type back a simple reply. I'm warm, all good here. Evan hands you a piece of toast on a paper napkin. It's not exactly gourmet, but you bite into it. Crunchy, slightly burnt, perfect. It's exactly right, you say through a mouthful. He watches you, amused, then turns back to tend his own. You eat at the counter together, companionable and quiet. Occasionally your hands brush. Once your elbows knock. He doesn't move away. Neither do you. It's strange how quickly it's become easy. The shared rhythms, the inside jokes, the familiar weight of his presence. As the morning stretches on, you both start to talk more about what comes next, not in the way of big questions or heavy labels, but in the gentle, meandering way of two people who know this doesn't end just because the snow does. He offers to walk you downstairs once you're ready. You tell him there's no rush, and you mean it. Still snowed in, you say, pointing at the mounds piled up against the steps outside. Totally trapped, he agrees. Could be days. Might be weeks. He nods solemnly. Better make more toast. You laugh and feel it echo all the way through your ribs. The cat joins you again sometime after breakfast. She stretches, yawns, then perches in the window like she's surveying her kingdom. Evan reaches out to scratch behind her ears without thinking. His touch is gentle, practiced. You find yourself watching the shape of his hands. Do you miss it? You ask softly. The life before all this? He considers it. Not really, he says. I thought I would, but I think what I miss wasn't even real. You nod, understanding without needing more. And you? He asks. You take a deep breath. I miss the idea of it sometimes, the pace, the noise, but not the reality, not the loneliness that came with always being surrounded. He looks at you for a long moment. You don't feel lonely now? You meet his eyes. Not even a little. He leans forward then, just slightly. Not enough to cross a line, just enough to make sure you know he's really listening. You can stay as long as you want, he says quietly, even after the snow melts. You smile, heartwarming at the edges. Is that your way of asking me to move in? His laugh is quick and full of surprise. No pressure, just offering an extended snowstorm survival plan. You reach out and take his hand. I think I'll stay for a little while longer, you whisper. And you mean it. Not just the day, not just the week, but the feeling, the warmth, the rhythm you've both found here unrushed, unspoken, beautifully unexpected. Later, when you do finally head downstairs just to grab a book, you say he walks with you, his hand brushing yours the whole way. The hallway feels different now, familiar, the kind of space where things begin. You unlock your door. He doesn't go in, just waits there, leaning against the frame like it's the most natural thing in the world. I'll be upstairs, he says softly, in case you miss me. You smile, stepping just close enough to press a hand against his chest. I already do. Then you leave the door open just a little, and when you come back with your book, your sweater, and your favorite candle, he's there, waiting. The kettle is already on, and the couch is warm. The kettle hisses as it comes to a boil again. You're back upstairs now, sweater on, book in hand, candle lit on the windowsill. Evan sits beside you, one leg tucked beneath the other, holding his mug in both hands like it's become part of him. Outside, the world is no longer lost under snowfall, just sleeping beneath it. It's day 3. The first stirrings of the town have begun. You can hear them faintly, the distant scrape of a snowplow, a dog barking 3 blocks over, the brief buzz of someone starting their car and then thinking better of it. But even those sounds feel far away, cushioned in snow. The rest of the world is trying to wake up, but you're not ready to join it. Not yet. The apartment has taken on a rhythm, a softness. There's the familiar warmth of the stove, the soft creak of floorboards. The cat, predictably, has made herself a permanent fixture at your side, and you're fairly certain she's declared you her human now. Evan doesn't argue. He just smiles every time she climbs onto your lap, like he's watching something that was always meant to happen. He's still in yesterday's hoodie, sleeves rolled to his elbows, the neckline just a little stretched. His hair is a little messy, like he ran a hand through it and decided that was good enough. He looks, do you describe it, settled, like someone at ease in his own space. In this moment, with you. You're quiet this morning, both of you. Not because you've run out of things to say, but because you don't need words to fill the air anymore. There's no awkward silence, no reaching, just the shared presence of someone who's begun to feel like an extension of your breath. But the world, as it always does, finds its way in. Your phone buzzes, not once, but 4 times in a row. A little pile of vibration and digital insistence. You glance over. Evan doesn't flinch. He just sips his tea and raises an eyebrow slightly, like a silent, "You gonna check that?" You reach for it reluctantly. A few texts, 1 voicemail, a calendar reminder about your next work meeting, the kind of thing you forgot existed, the kind of thing that tugs you back toward what came before. You don't answer anything right away. Instead, you look up and say, "The world's waking up." He sets his mug down. "Do we have to?" You smile. Eventually. He leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I know." It's not disappointment in his voice, just the quiet awareness of something fragile nearing its edge, the end of the pause, the re-entry. "I don't want this to be a snowstorm thing," you say suddenly, surprising yourself with the honesty. He looks over at you, his gaze steady. "Neither do I." You sit with that. It's the first real acknowledgement that whatever's been unfolding here, this slow, sweet inching together, might survive beyond melted snow and flickering lantern light. But neither of you says too much. Not yet. Instead, he reaches out, and this time, he doesn't stop at your hand. His fingers brush your cheek gently, 1 knuckle, slow and light, like he's memorizing you, like this is permission, And when you don't pull away, when you lean into it just slightly, he smiles. I don't know what this is yet, he murmurs, but I know I want more of it. You nod. Me too. Outside, the clouds have begun to break. Sunlight spills in, soft and pale, across the couch and floor, the kind of light that makes everything look clearer, sharper, a little too real. But here, in this moment, it feels like a blessing, like a beginning. You finish your tea in silence. You share the last piece of toast. You talk about the day ahead not with a sense of urgency, but with the tentative hope of people wondering how this will translate into the normal rhythm of life. I should check in with work, you admit. He groans. Do you have to? You smile. Eventually. I don't like eventually. You lean your shoulder into his gently. You'll survive. I don't know, he says, sighing dramatically. I may never recover from losing my tea, making companion. You bump his arm. I'll come back later. That seems to settle something in him. You promise? He asks, quieter. I do. When you head downstairs, he walks with you again. Same stairs, same pace, same gentle brush of his shoulder against yours. The hallway is colder than before, but somehow it doesn't matter. You step inside your apartment and pause. It smells like you, but it also smells like distance, like a room that hasn't had you fully in it for a while. You leave the door open behind you and move slowly. The radiator clicks on with a reluctant hiss. Your bookshelf looks untouched. The blanket on your couch still holds the shape of the last time you curled up alone. It's not a bad feeling, just different. You sit down and begin to answer a few texts. You send an email, you plug in your laptop and check the calendar. But the whole time, you're not really in the room. You're upstairs. You're beside him. And soon enough, you're heading back. You don't knock. You don't have to. He's already opening the door as you step into the hall. Missed you, he says, not as a joke. I was gone for 20 minutes. That's 20 minutes too long. You laugh, then step inside. And that's the moment it becomes clear. It wasn't the storm that made the connection. It was the pause, the quiet, the permission to see each other without the noise. And now, with the world waking up again, the real question isn't can it last? It's how will it grow? Evan puts the kettle on again, because of course he does. You sit on the couch, where the cat immediately claims your lap again, because of course she does. And he leans against the doorway to the kitchen and watches you with a look that says, this isn't over, this is just getting started. And you believe it, because when the world comes knocking again, emails and alarms and commutes and chaos, you'll answer it together. You forget for a little while that you haven't always been doing this, that you haven't always started the day with the soft clink of mugs and the quiet thud of his feet padding across the floor to greet you, that Marigold hasn't always hopped into your lap the moment you sit down, or that your hands haven't always reached instinctively for the same Moogie's favorite blue one because it feels like it was made for your fingers. It hasn't always been like this, but it feels like it has. It's not just the snow anymore. It's not just being stuck or making do or savoring the stillness. It's something more now, something steady, something that lingers even as the town around you begins to stir. The roads are plowed. The sidewalks are shoveled. People are emerging from their homes bundled in scarves and stories about power outages and quiet dinners and long walks through thigh-deep snow. But you're still upstairs. You're still with him. Evan has started referring to your visits as morning check-ins, though they've quickly grown into full days. Sometimes you bring your laptop, curl up on his couch with a blanket, and work with him nearby him sketching or clicking through email, you editing or replying to things that seem less urgent than they used to. Sometimes you take breaks and read aloud to each other, or make scrambled eggs in his too small pan, or look out the window just to watch the light shift across the snowbanks. No one asks questions. It's just what you do now. You've been back to your apartment a few times, to grab clothes, to water your plants, once to change your sheets. But it never feels quite as warm there, or quite as easy. Not like this. Not like him. You're here more than you're not. And it doesn't feel strange at all. Today, you're leaning against the counter, sipping tea while Evan rummages through his fridge. "We have a decision to make," he says, peering in with mock seriousness. "Oh no," you say, playing along. "What's the situation?" He turns and points a spoon at you. "We are down to 1 avocado, 2 eggs, and half a cucumber. This is either brunch or a dare." You snort. "Do we have toast?" He checks. 1 slice. "Then it's a duel." He laughs and closes the fridge. "Or we could just go shopping." You blink. The idea of doing something so ordinary together feels strange only because it's the first time it's come up. You've shared space, warmth, silences, but not errands. Not the real-life things that start to link people in quiet, lived-in ways. You raise your mug to your lips, considering. "Okay," you say finally, "let's go." He grins like you just agreed to a weekend away. And just like that, the next hour becomes something different, something new, something that quietly, undeniably blends the two of you further. The walk to the market is slow. The sidewalks are clear now, but you take your time. The snowbanks are still high, the sun catching on the icicles above you, throwing light like prisms across the slush-streaked pavement. Your boots crunch, your breath puffs. His hand brushes yours once, twice, and then, on the 3rd try, he just takes it. You don't say anything. You just let him hold it. In the store, you move naturally. You discuss meal options like you've always done this. Pasta or soup. He wants oatmeal cookies. You want fresh berries. He remembers you like tea with ginger and slips a box into the cart without comment. You remember he can't stand peanut butter and steer him away from the aisle with the fancy nut butters before he notices. You check out together. He pays. You carry the bag. On the way back, he nudges your shoulder. "We grocery shopped. That's domestic." You grin. Next thing you know, we'll be arguing about laundry detergent. He stops in the snow, pulls you gently toward him by the sleeve, and kisses your forehead. It's the first time he's kissed you. Not on the mouth. Not yet. But it lands deeper than you expect. He pulls away slowly. "Let's argue about brand names after lunch." You can't stop smiling. Back at the apartment, you unpack the groceries together like it's second nature. His kitchen is still small and slightly chaotic on drawer sticks, and the fridge hums too loud when it closes, but you move around each other like two pieces that have found the rhythm of fitting. He puts the kettle on. You start on the vegetables. He pulls out a pan. You hand him the oil. The music is playing softly in the background again, something slow, acoustic, the same playlist you've been moving through for days. It makes the kitchen feel like a lived-in place, like a space with memory. When the food is ready, you eat on the couch again. Marigold curls up near your feet, purring. The sun arcs across the floor, lazy and golden. At one point, Evan leans his head back, resting it against the wall behind the couch. He closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, and lets it out slowly. "I could get used to this," he says quietly. You look over at him. You already have. He opens one eye, smiles. Busted. Later, when the plates are cleared and the dishes are done, and the day begins to dip toward evening, you find yourself curled against him, head on his chest, his arm draped over your shoulder. There's no pressure in it, no need to speak, just presence, just the deep, steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath your ear. You think about how far this has come in just a few days. Not fast, just right, like it was waiting. You murmur, feels like we've known each other longer than we have. He strokes your shoulder softly. Maybe we've been circling the same quiet for a while. You lift your head, meet his eyes. There's something there calm, sure, tender. He reaches up, touches your cheek again. And this time, when he kisses you, it's your mouth he finds. It's soft, unrushed, warm, and it feels like the answer to every silence you've ever waited in. The kiss doesn't lead anywhere, not because it can't, not because it shouldn't, but because it doesn't have to. It stays right there soft, intentional, quiet, his hand still on your cheek, his breath warm against yours, your lips meeting gently like you've both just returned from a long, patient journey. There's no rush, no script, just the kind of stillness that knows it's safe now to lean in and safer still to rest there. When he pulls back, his forehead touches yours, lightly, as if that too is a kind of kiss. Your eyes stay closed. His voice is a whisper. I've wanted to do that since the first night. You don't open your eyes when you answer. Me too. The quiet after that is a little different, not heavier, just fuller, like there's been a shift in the air between you can both feel, but don't need to name. It's evening again. The sky is turning lavender outside the windows, the snow reflecting the last light like a blanket of spun glass. The world has thawed just enough to come back to life, but inside this apartment, the quiet still lingers. It's chosen to stay a little longer, just like you. You end up staying for dinner again, not because you planned to, just because you never left. You slice the vegetables while Evan cooks rice in a pot far too small. You listen to an old jazz playlist he claims he doesn't know, but hums along to anyway. The cat weaves between your ankles like a well-trained chaperone, and it all feels easy. Dinner is simplerest bowls with roasted things and a little too much garlic, but you eat it at the table this time, side by side, knees brushing, a candle flickering quietly in the middle between the salt and pepper shakers. You talk about everything and nothing. The worst meal you've ever cooked, his childhood obsession with geology, the fact that you still remember the names of your elementary school classmates, how he once got caught climbing onto his neighbor's garage to rescue a trapped kite and ended up having to explain the entire thing to a fireman who didn't believe a word of it. It's not flirting. Not exactly. It's folding you into his life, him into yours. A gentle layering of stories over shared space. Later, you clear the table together. He tries to get you to sit while he does the dishes, but you refuse. You end up washing while he dries, shoulders bumping occasionally, your hips brushing once and sending a pleasant ripple through your chest, the kind of touch that doesn't ask for anything, just stays with you. After, you curl back up on the couch, where the blanket has begun to feel like a welcome instead of alone. There's a movie on now, something old and gentle, with muted colors and a meandering pace. You're not really watching it, neither is he, but the sounds are comforting, a soft score, the occasional laugh, the steady rhythm of dialogue spoken too quietly to follow, but too soothing to turn off. You're nestled against him, head on his chest again, his hand moving absently up and down your arm, not because he's trying to coax anything out of you, just because he likes to. His touch is not a question. It's a presence. After a while, your body grows heavy with sleep, your eyes blinking slowly, breath matching the rhythm of his. The film ends, the screen goes dark, the cat has long since retired to the corner, and still, He doesn't move. Not until you shift first sitting up slowly, stretching, the blanket slipping down your shoulders. He watches you with that look again, like he's memorizing you, like he's not quite sure how this happened but knows he doesn't want it to stop. You glance toward the window. It's not snowing anymore. The sky is clear. There's a part of you, small, quiet, that wonders if this is the moment you're supposed to say goodnight. Go home, let him sleep. Give the moment space to breathe. But when you meet his eyes again, you know, there's nothing you need to breathe away from. Can I stay again? You ask softly. His smile is instant. Of course. No hesitation, no caveats, just warmth. He walks with you to the bathroom, where your toothbrush still sits in the cup where you left it. He hands you one of his flannels to sleep in again, this one dark blue and soft with wear. You change in the quiet. Brush your teeth side by side again. Rinse the cups, wipe the counter, like always. The difference now is that there's nothing left between you but sleep and whatever dreams you might share. In Betty's bed this time, not the couch you lie on your side facing him. The light is off, but the window glow offers just enough to see the shape of his eyes, the curl of his mouth. He speaks first. You don't have to explain anything tomorrow. You blink. What do you mean? I mean, if people ask where you were, or what this is, or why your cheeks are glowing in that way they do when you're pretending not to be flustered. You laugh, pushing at his arm lightly. I don't mind explaining, you say. I just haven't figured out the words yet. He nods, his hand finding yours beneath the blanket. Take your time, he says. I'm not going anywhere. And he means it. You believe him. You fall asleep wrapped in that certainty, his breath steady beside yours, your fingers loosely intertwined. It's not about the storm anymore. It hasn't been for a while. Now, it's about what comes after. The snow melts slowly. It takes days, maybe a week. There are still icy patches clinging to the corners of sidewalks, little piles of dirty white beside curbs, rooftops that still glint silver in the early morning sun. But it's melting, steadily. The world is waking. So are you. But not in the way that feels like jarring alarms or a return to the noise. No, you're waking in a different way. In mornings that still start with the warm weight of Evan's arm draped loosely over your side, in the familiar sound of his cat stretching at the foot of the bed, in the ritual of tea made before words, of shared toast without commentary, of hands that still find each other across the couch when you're both reading and think the other isn't looking. You're back to work now. Not completely, there's still a sense of in-between, but the emails are answered, and the calendar fills again. The town has its sounds back. Cars pass outside the building. A delivery truck rumbles by. The neighbors argue softly one floor down, just like they always do. But none of it shakes what you've built. Not even a little. You still start your days in his apartment more often than not. Still bring your laptop upstairs, curl up on the far end of his couch with a blanket around your legs and your mug set just beside his. Still take turns lighting the candle in the window, whoever wakes first. Still pause around 11 a.m. to stretch, to press a kiss to his cheek, to whisper something only meant for his ears. It hasn't become routine. It's just life. And it's beautiful. On Wednesday, he makes you lunch grilled cheese with too much butter and tomato soup that tastes like something from childhood. He serves it to you with a solemn face and says, "This is the culinary pinnacle of my youth." You nearly choke on a laugh. On Friday, you make cookies at your place half-burnt and misshapen and far too chocolatey. He eats 4 and kisses you in your doorway, melted chocolate still warm on his bottom lip. On Sunday, you do nothing, on purpose. You read for hours on his couch. He plays a few lazy chords on his guitar. You both take turns napping while the cat keeps watch from the windowsill like the sleepy guardian of your small shared world. One morning, without comment, you notice that your toothbrush isn't in the cup anymore. It's in the drawer, beside his, like it belongs there, like you do. You still go back downstairs sometimes, to water your plants, to pick up a package, to sleep in your own bed when you know you need that kind of silence. But now, it doesn't feel like stepping away from him, just stepping out for a breath. Because he's yours now, and you're his. It's not about snow anymore. It's about space. The kind you give each other, the kind you share. One evening, a full week after the last snowflake fell, you're sitting on his couch again, legs tucked under his, a book open in your lap. He's beside you, sketching in a notebook he rarely lets anyone see. The cat's tail flicks rhythmically in sleep. And suddenly, without thinking, you say, "This feels like home." He looks up. His smile is slow, not surprised, not startled, just full. "It is," he says. Then he closes the notebook, sets it aside, and takes your face gently in his hands. "I don't care how fast it's felt," he says. "I don't care what anyone else would call it. You've been the quiet I didn't know I needed, and I want more of it." You place your hands over his. "I do too." He kisses you, slow and sure, like someone who knows this isn't the beginning of something fragile, but the start of something strong. You fall asleep that night in his bed again, with the snow gone and the world humming around you, but you still find the quiet. It's not outside anymore. It's here, between two people who were never really strangers at all. It's been 3 weeks since the storm. The snow is almost entirely gone now. Just a few stubborn patches cling to the north-facing corners of roofs, the shaded bends of sidewalks, the edges of the world where the sun doesn't quite reach. But for the most part, it's spring pretending to be late winter, damp streets, budding trees, birds singing like they've been holding their breath. And yet, some part of you still moves through the day like there's snow outside, still slow, still thoughtful, still aware of the hush that lives beneath the hum. Because the storm may have passed, but something in you stayed changed. You still wake up wrapped in the quiet you found with him, still feel the rhythm of shared daysty and toast, socks and books, touches that ask nothing but stay anyway. It's not routine, not habit, not even comfort. It's love, not dramatic, not loud, just warm, steady, real. You live between apartments now. Technically, yours is still home, but you joke that it's more of a storage unit, a plant sanctuary, a place you visit when you want to water the spider fern or take a bath or touch your own books just to remember where you started. But Evan's place is yours too. He cleared a drawer for you last week, didn't mention it, just left it open with a pair of fuzzy socks folded neatly inside. You found it and smiled so hard you had to sit down. He keeps buying your favorite tea. You keep bringing your favorite blanket. There's a rhythm to it now, one you never planned and don't want to break. The snowstorm isn't something you talk about much anymore. It just lives beneath everything, a shared memory that doesn't need retelling, a before and after stitched gently into your days. The reason your toothbrush lives in his drawer, the reason he reaches for your hand even when you're just standing in line at the cafe, the reason he sometimes watches you like he still doesn't believe you're here, and you let him because you don't entirely believe it either. Sometimes, in the middle of something small, pouring water for tea, folding his hoodie over the back of the chair, brushing your teeth while he hums something tuneless and quiet, you realize, this is my life now, and it doesn't feel like a surprise. It feels like something you said yes to without needing to speak. One morning, early, he wakes before you. You feel him slip gently from the bed, hear the soft creak of the floorboards, the careful way he moves so the cat won't leap up too early. You stay still, not asleep, just waiting. And then, a few minutes later, he's back, with a mug of tea and a small plate with toast and marmalade. He kneels beside the bed, sets the tray down on the nightstand, and kisses your shoulder through the blanket. Today marks exactly 3 weeks since the world stopped, he says softly. You blink at him. 3 weeks ago, he adds, I knocked on your door and didn't know I'd be letting you into the rest of my life. You reach for the tea, take a sip, and smile. 3 weeks ago, I answered the door to a guy I barely knew in a building I thought would never feel like home. He leans in and presses his forehead to yours. What changed? You breathe in and let the answer out slowly. You did. That morning, you eat toast in bed and read the paper aloud and leave the dishes for later. That evening, you go for a walk, hand in hand, past trees just beginning to bloom, and you talk about everything and nothing. At some point, he says, I don't want to rush this. And you say, you're not. And he grins like it's the best thing anyone's ever said to him. You still don't call it anything in particular. Not officially. You haven't made it social media official. You haven't defined anything in the way people usually do. You haven't talked about moving in. But you have made space for each other. In your kitchens. In your rhythms. In your sleep. In the in-between moments when the world is neither quiet nor loud, just yours. And one night, long after the snow is gone, when the windows are open and the moon is low and everything smells like the thaw, Evan looks at you and says, you're the best thing I never saw coming. You press your face into his shoulder, smile into the fabric of his shirt. I'm glad you knocked, you whisper, and he replies, without missing a beat, I'll keep knocking, every day. And maybe that's what love really is. Not a single kiss, not a grand gesture, not even surviving a storm. Just someone who keeps showing up, who keeps knocking, and someone else who keeps opening the door.